Welcome back, viewers, to yet another corporate interview of Winning Business. Today we are going to interview Mr. Raj Sharma, Chairman of MRSS India Limited. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
We'll straight away get into your story, your entrepreneur story, right from the beginning, how it all started. If you can just share with our viewers, where are we today?
Okay. So I think 17 years ago was when we actually co-founded Majestic MRSS. This was a time when I was in the UK and my partner was in US, and we used to do our annual meets, whether in US or UK. So we were sitting in London in a cafe, and one morning, and suddenly the 9/11 incident happened, and it's kind of the defining point in our entrepreneurial journey, because that was the point when we were both doing comfortable jobs, I in London and he in New York, and we saw after that the way Asians were looked upon was different. It changed, and Indians also kind of perception was not as much. But at the same time, when we look back at India, the India Shining campaign had just started, and there was a new wave of entrepreneurial spirit which was in the air. So we just thought maybe it's not a bad idea to revisit and look at opportunities in India. So we did a couple of trips, and we came here, and we found that there was this abundance of call centers which had happened. The boom had come, and already it had commoditized. There was infrastructure available everywhere, and it was at a pay-as-you-go basis. So it was readily available. You had trained manpower, and so we visited these call centers, tried to understand what services they are offering. What we found out was they were all offering just two kinds of services. One was basically selling, telemarketing, using voice to sell to customers, sell credit cards, mortgages, loans, etc. And second was inbound customer service. That is all. There was no other application for these call centers that was there. Now, staying overseas, we have ourselves experienced a large number of interviews. Whenever you go to a Walmart or a Tesco or even the local councils, they used to take interviews of citizens, etc., consumers. So we had the experience, and we wondered why these call centers were not doing that. So we went back to these market research firms in the US, in the UK, and tried to understand where do they outsource this, what do they do, who does these calls. And we came to know that it was all outsourced. So there are specialized data collection companies they outsource. So we said, okay, do they do it internationally? For US, Canada was the extent of international. So they said, yes, they outsourced it to Canada, UK outsourced it to Ireland, and that was their extent of outsourcing the voice data collection business. What we did was we pioneered data collection out of India. So we gave a new application to the existing infrastructure, and we found Majestic MRSS, which is Majestic Market Research Support Services. So we were providing support services to other market research firms. So that is how the whole genesis is. The journey of MRSS India itself has been very successful and interesting. MRSS India, even though is a unique company, is kind of a disruption, because it's unlike traditional market research firms. It's providing digital insights, and therefore it is also a success story on the stock exchange. So that is where, in a nutshell, is the journey so far.
So what, according to you, is the future of technology in market research business?
I think market research has been a very traditional industry, and even though it's a very critical part of every organization, it has not got its due respect, and also it especially in a country like India, globally, even though it is considered as a knowledge industry and a very high IQ kind of job profile. In India, it's not really seen that way, and therefore it took, or traditional companies are taking time to adopt technology. But the fact is that it is a given, it is impossible. It will be more and more necessary to conduct market research via technology as technology becomes more pervasive. Now, we use our smartphones, we use our iPads, we use our tablets, maybe even laptop, desktop. We switch between these seamlessly. If brands or marketeers want to understand what is the app which we use on either the iPhone or the iPad or on the laptop, or which sites we visit on which device, and if we want consumers to track that, it's impossible. They will not know. You will not know how much time you spend on LinkedIn, maybe on your phone versus your laptop. And if I tell you to track a diary also, you will not. So these are things where there is no other way of getting insights, but it is via technology. So we use things like digital tracking to gain insights into human behavior. Then there is facial coding. A lot of time human beings do not verbalize well or are not able to put in words what they are going through. And that is when neuro tracking comes into play, or facial coding comes into play, where you can understand why a person is taking such a decision.
So what are other new technologies that you use?
So as I said, digital tracking is one of them. Facial coding, I just said. We also use eye tracking quite a bit. So eye tracking, when we started MRSS 5 years ago, we had machines which were like this, and we had to ask the respondent to sit in front of it and look at the stimuli, and then we would be able to measure the gaze pattern, or create a heat map or a tension map. Now it's all in a pair of glasses. So your wife or sister is entering food bazaar. I don't have to tell them, remember what you did and come and tell me. I just give them a pair of glasses. They go inside, do whatever they want to do. They come out, I take the glasses without asking them anything. I put it to my laptop, which has a floor plan. I know exactly how much time they spent, what products they saw, what brands they noticed, what purchases they made, everything. So there's no need to even bother the consumer to remember anything or ask him anything. So eye tracking has a number of applications in retail, in car clinics, testing of driving, and advertising testing, in media consumption. Then you have neuro tracking. Neuro tracking allows you to give answers to impossible decision making. So we use it a lot in pharmaceutical marketing. Now pharma companies have a 101 marketing problem. For them, it's the same molecule that they're all selling under different brand names and different pricing. Now this is a big challenge for any marketer. So for them, all their budgets and they cannot even advertise. They're not allowed to advertise. All their budgets go in medical communication. So what is it that they have to tell to the doctor that will convince him or create the intent to prescribe that company's particular brand? Is it something which the marketers are willing to spend a lot of money? Neuro tracking provides answers to these solutions. Then, as I said, going forward, we are looking at artificial intelligence, where there is you have big data crawlers, where there's already so much of data, where you gain insights by just picking the data and sharing it. So I think a lot of has been said that data is the new oil, but I think it's even oil is now almost like a commodity or not required soon. With the whole automotive industry changing, even data is actually nothing but going to be at a premium because it's abundant, available and abundant. It's already commoditized. So I would rather say insights is the new oil. Insights, generation of insights from the data is what our value proposition is. And in that we use various technology forms.
So what are the challenging sectors in which MRSS is currently doing innovative work?
It's a very traditional way of doing market research, but we are trying to bring in technology and improve the validity and reliability of the data. And so there is some innovation going on that they use a lot of human force to come up with these reports, whereas MRSS is looking at launching a force vertical which uses AI and big data crawler. So we basically will minimize the amount of human hours or man hours required, and the human element will only come into play once the data is there, is to put it all together and give a consultative edge to the report.
What are the future plans for MR?
So I think MRSS growth is obviously, like all companies who have to grow and scale, there is an organic and there's an inorganic story. So for us, it's India organic story, India inorganic story, ex-India organic story, ex-India inorganic. What I mean by that is acquisitions is inorganic, and it's nature of the industry. None of the big firms have become big without acquisitions, and so that is the route MRSs also will have to take. It is looking for acquisitions in India, it is looking for acquisitions overseas. We managed to complete our first acquisition in Singapore a couple of months ago. We acquired Market Probe, which is now rebranded as MRAP, Majestic Research Asia Pacific, and we are looking at other interesting firms which we can acquire and integrate. So the criteria for the target organizations that we are looking at is either they have a skill set or a capability which we don't have, so we get that, or they have a captive client base which is difficult to get access to, and we get access, they become our clients, or they give us a geographical edge or a geographical advantage. Probably it will take time for us to build from scratch in a geographical area, but we get it because we are acquiring them. So these are the three criteria which we are looking at targets. Of course, apart from that, it would be obviously firms which we get at reasonable valuations, and also which are not larger than us in scale. So we are only looking to acquire companies which are of our size, so that we don't end up biting more than what we can chew. And so that is the future of MRSS in terms of growth, organizations, and not to say very long-term future, but even 2020, the vision that MRSS has is to be Asia's largest independent market research firm, and that would actually make it the first Indian company ever to do that. And what it translates into is roughly top line of 150 to 175 crores. So that is the future in the short term, and that's a vision which it will achieve.
So how much fund allocation would you like to keep at the M&A in the next 3 years?
So I think it's really we are constantly looking at targets, and as far as funds are concerned, right now India has got a lot of supporting financial institutions. So if you look at SIDBI, if you look at Exim, even if you look at some of the private banking sectors, if the companies are good and if they are looking at interesting targets, they are willing to help. So I think it would be difficult to come up with a quantitative figure. But as I said, since we are looking at companies which are not larger than our size, so maybe the next acquisition would be, whatever, they could be in the range of maybe from 5 crores to 40 crores. So that is the kind of valuation of the target that we'll be looking at. And the funding, of course, we would expect to get it from these organizations.
Do you believe there is a winning formula for becoming a successful entrepreneur, and what is yours?
Okay, there is no common formula, I would imagine, for any entrepreneur. There are the basics of having a work ethic and being hardworking, smart working, and all those cliches. But for us, it was, for MRSS and us, it has been disruption and discipline. That has been the mantra. I think it's very easy once you become a brand and once you have some success to be complacent and to kind of get indisciplined. But as long as you're disrupting, as long as you're innovating, creating new wins in the marketplace. If you are winning, the other thing you have to do is also continue doing what you were, stick to your knitting. Winning should not distract you, and so that has been our mantra: disruption and discipline. We know we are a fast growing organization, so we have made sure that there are processes in place which allow us to see the future and adapt to the future. So as a company is growing or doubling in size, the processes also have to change. It cannot be the same.
What's the most exciting experience to memorize on your entrepreneur journey?
So I think listing on 16 July 2015 was a big thing. It was really, as growing up or as a child or student or even early in your career, one has always seen, it's only the Tatas and Birlas and the Ambanis who are listed, and you really don't even kind of aspire to maybe or even dream. So this, I think, was something really out of the ambition sphere. Also, of course, one always wants to make it big, but one has to visualize what that big is. Somehow this came as a surprise because it was a new platform, a new opportunity that the stock exchange, Indian stock exchanges, and capital markets have given to entrepreneurs. And the fact that we did not get scared of it, and the fact that we went for it, and to ring the bell in the Dalal Street auditorium, I think was the biggest thing. You only see it in news, and you don't imagine one day you yourself will be doing it, and there will be a script which goes, which has your company's name and which the price is going high. So I think that is the most memorable, if you have to pick one. But yes, every day there are highlights, there are challenges. The twinkle comes in the eye whenever you see or learn something from a client or even your colleagues. So there are lots of memorable moments, and once you are winning, MRSS is a winning business. So it has to create memorable moments on a day-to-day basis. And we are very happy that we have a very good group of investors, and the kind of keep increasing and the profile keeps getting better and better. And we are very thankful to all our investors and our stakeholders for partnering with us and continuing to keep pace at the pace at which we are growing.
Lastly, what would be your advice for a startup entrepreneur?
So I think we have seen a lot of, as a research firm also, a lot of startup entrepreneurs come to us with ideas, with concepts, and we actually provide concept testing services to them. For a startup entrepreneur, I think the key would be, of course, it's very important to be obsessed and passionate about your dream or your product. But at the same time, I think one has to not try and be emotional about it. One has to be realistic. One has to be pragmatic and practical. Ultimately, you can have a belief and faith, but one has to see the market realities. So there is no point just blindly following your passion if your whole world is telling you that it's wrong. Of course, there's something that you have to be persuasive, but I think there's a limit. So a lot of times I've seen a lot of startup entrepreneurs give up everything, and which they should have done it long back before. And a lot of them also don't put in everything when they should have, if they strongly believe in an idea. But I think there's a timing, and I strongly feel that they should really test the concepts and talk to consumers. And it's really more external rather than internal. So internally, they obviously love their product, their service, their idea, it's their baby, but they have to not really think of it internally, because ultimately it's the consumer who pays a price, it's the consumer who makes them a long-running organization or a winning company. So that is one piece of advice to startup entrepreneurs: to test realities with the consumers.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you, Job. Lovely talking to you.